relocating the buffalo, I think it's a good thing. We use the buffalo in ceremonial purposes. We don't leave anything behind. We use it all. And to this day, we still do that. We still practice those Indian ways. If we continue to teach those ways to our children, I could see some good changes. Not right away, but if we continue on that same path, they're going to pick it up. They're going to pick it up and be strong again. That's the way I have to see it.
More than 15 years ago, some people from the tribes of Fort Belknap Reservation saw that the slaughter of bison that's occurring on the edge of Yellowstone was unnecessary. And rather than just have them slaughtered, why not take them here to Fort Belknap to start new wild herds? The first step in this restoration occurred in 2012 at Fort Peck Indian Reservation. 61 wild Yellowstone bison were taken to Fort Peck to start a new wild tribal cultural herd. The first time wild Yellowstone bison had been restored to the Great Plains. The plan was to take half of the bison that were restored to Fort Peck and move them to Fort Belknap. Just as the Yellowstone bison arrived at Fort Peck, an injunction stopped any further restoration of Yellowstone bison.
All rise and give your
And over that next year and a half, Defenders of Wildlife joined with the state of Montana in fighting that injunction. We took it all the way to the Montana Supreme Court.
The bison, even though they're going into a fenced area, are going to escape. The bison are going to come out onto the surrounding property, and they'll affect the private landowners that surround the area where these bison are.
The bison we're talking about here have been certified both by the federal government and the state of Montana to be brucellosis free. They've been tested anywhere from 9 to 11 times. They've been through several generations of breeding, and all of the offspring have tested negative. So is the issue more damage to their property rather than infection of their herd by an infected bison?
That is the issue that this preliminary injunction was intended to address.
The reason this case is important and has substantial public interest, and the reason this court's decision is important, I think is highlighted in something that the Fort Peck tribes wrote in their amicus brief, where they described their own receipt of bison and said the tribes were finally successful after a 130-year break in the historic relationship in reuniting the descendants of the Assiniboine and Sioux people who survived the 19th century with the descendants of wild bison that survived the bison holocaust of the same period. And that's why it's important for this court to clear the way for the Fort Belknap tribes to be able to enjoy that same reunion. I ask you to reverse. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all counsel. We will now take this matter under advisement.
All of these bills are anti-buffalo bills. The buffalo are our brothers. Because of the buffalo, we, the native tribes, are here.
Here in the state, in the bordering towns to the reservation that I live on, just anti-buffalo. I find it hard that we cannot sit down and come to a solution about these animals, and that there seems to be one side that will only give you that one side. And so our goal is to try and educate as many non-Indians to the importance of this animal to us, and why we're here today, and why we will be here tomorrow and the next day and the next day.
Bison are incredibly important to many Montanans, especially the tribes that live in Montana. And it's inappropriate for the state legislature to pass bills that interfere with the wishes of tribes to restore bison to their tribal lands. So we are here in full support of bison and to make sure that the state legislature does not stop the progress that has been made to restore this important animal.
It's been a long fight, over 15 years of trying to get these Yellowstone buffalo safely out of the park, and it's a good start. It's a very small step when we're talking about the numbers that we're dealing with that get killed every year, still down in the park. But at least we're showing, that the tribes are willing to step up, Fort Peck and Fort Belknap, that we're willing to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. It looks like a small step to the outside world, but it's a big step to us.
You want to pinch yourself every now and then to make sure you're still in the moment. But it's about time, I think.
Belknap crew will go in the middle, 2 in the middle, so we've got 4. So that'll be you, Tony.
Okay.
Keep them in there. Okay? Any questions?
Are they ready then, or do we go, or what?
What do you think?
Yeah. Go. Ready?
I don't think that you can call these things anything but wild. They don't want to be held, corralled, penned up, whatever you call it. I'd rather them be out here and being buffalo, being what they are, rather than doing this unnecessary evil, so to speak, something that we have to do. It's putting great stress on these animals, and it's just frustrating that there are people in the state government that think by simply putting a label, a designation, that it's going to change the animal, and it doesn't.
Everything from the 56 from the first day is clean. 100% clean.
Yeah. So, excellent news. All negative. I just had to have the scientific proof that we already knew.
The plan is to back this up to one of these. Let them go. We don't want to hold them any longer than we have to.
wash day, huh? My relatives, good day to you. This is really a historic occasion for us. The first load of the real buffalo, I call them, because they're 100% genetically pure. The same stuff that roamed the prairies here quite a few years ago. There was 2 herd bulls that are behind them, so they're going to wait for them. They passed their test last, I guess, for no brucellosis.
The tribes of Fort Belknap and Fort Peck reservations in Montana are the leaders in wild bison restoration. When nobody else would step forward to take these wild bison from Yellowstone that otherwise would have been slaughtered, the tribes stepped forward to do so. And we all owe them a great debt of gratitude for that. They are helping America restore this incredibly important species back to the landscape where they belong.
This is a great day for our reservation. It means so much to tribes just in general that we look after this animal that looked after our ancestors 200 years ago. It's not over yet. We're going to continue to try and help this animal however we can.
This is the beginning of a big plan. These bison will start a new conservation herd of wild bison here at Fort Belknap. The area that they've set aside for bison is now over 23,000 acres. The plan is to keep going, grow the area that's available to wild bison at Fort Belknap to as large as possible, and someday reach at least 1,000 for this herd. That's what scientists say we need to maintain viability in the population and for the bison to perform the role on the environment that they once did long ago.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was great. Excellent, man. Excellent.
Fine.
Very good. Good to have them home.
Yeah.